Ladies and gentlemen, the time has finally arrived. It is finally time for WrestleMania 42. And if you want to take a look at this road to WrestleMania, we can call it kind of by a bunch of different words. The first word that comes into my mind is interesting. For better or for worse, this road to WrestleMania definitely was interesting because it felt like we had a lot of good, and then as we got closer to WrestleMania, things started to fall apart. I look at the Roman Reigns CM Punk feud, which started off so good and then kind of really started to taper off towards the end. You had Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton, which again also started out very, very good and then got kind of weird and just really started to fizzle out towards the end. You have had feuds along the way that have been consistently good. I look at Brock Lesnar Obafemi. I think of Stephanie Valkyrie Liv Morgan. I've really, really enjoyed that feud. And then you've got matches in this year's WrestleMania which just don't have a story really at all. Obviously, Seth Rollins and Gunther was kind of just thrown together last minute, and you can't really fault WWE for that. It's them simply just wanting to have two of their bigger names on the biggest show of the year, and it does open the door for something potentially big to happen, which we'll talk about later. You have stories that have just been bad through and through, like Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill. So, no matter how you want to look at this road to WrestleMania, again, the word that comes into my mind has been interesting. Again, for better or for worse, it's been interesting, but we are finally here at WrestleMania 42, and the wait is almost over for us to finally see the results of everything that has happened so far. Obviously, if you're new to these predictions videos, it's a really simple concept. I go through the match card of the WWE show and I give my thoughts on who I think is going to win, who I think is going to lose, and where the stories could go from there. Real quickly, before we get too far ahead in the video, I want to say that if you are a WWE fan, consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. That is all we post is WWE related content. So if you're a WWE fan, again, consider subscribing. It's free. You can always change your mind later. So obviously, we are going to start off by talking about night one of WrestleMania and the match that is going to be kicking off night one and WrestleMania in its entirety is the six-man tag team match with the Usos and LA Knight versus The Vision with IShowSpeed. And I know a lot of people are going to groan about IShowSpeed being in the first match of WrestleMania and all the celebrity involvement that has gotten backlash by fans. I understand that and I hear you. But I'm ultimately okay with IShowSpeed being in this match because I'm okay with celebrity involvement just as long as they prove that they are there for more than just a paycheck and they actually have a genuine care for what they're trying to do. And IShowSpeed, in my opinion, has shown that. I mean, the dude literally got thrown almost through his computer monitor by LA Knight. And he has taken the time in the ring to at least attempt to not look like a fool in this match. So I have to respect Speed for putting in the effort into at least attempting to make this into something really actually kind of fun. And the story itself has also been really, really fun. You have IShowSpeed being cursed by Danhausen, which I think Danhausen is very much on the table to make an appearance in this first match. And then you had everything happen with LA Knight. And I already talked about Knight throwing Speed almost through his computer monitor. That little micro feud has been such a fun watch. And the decision to implement that little micro feud into the Usos and the Vision, I'm kind of okay with it because it does ultimately kind of help IShowSpeed a little bit and maybe not necessarily putting everything on him, where if it was just a one-on-one match between Speed and LA Knight, I think things could get a little hairy there. Now, I would argue that this match probably shouldn't be opening WrestleMania this year, but ultimately, I am okay with it. I think it's been a good enough feud and a fun enough story that should provide a fun start to WrestleMania. Now, as for who I think wins, I'm going to end up going with the Vision. Logan Paul, Austin Theory, and IShowSpeed. Now, I don't expect IShowSpeed to be involved in the ending necessarily because I do think that they are going to still try to run the whole him being cursed thing. Or maybe we see a scenario in which Danhausen does come out and IShowSpeed tries to block the curse from Danhausen with LA Knight or one of the Usos, and that's how the match ends. And ultimately, I think that the Vision is going to win because they have the tag team titles. And I think that they actually kind of want to put a little bit into the Vision a little bit. And having them lose a match at WrestleMania like this, albeit it's against quality opponents, still, I don't think necessarily would help them at all. Moving on to the unsanctioned match between Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu. This is the match that I feel like should probably have started WrestleMania this year and opened the show entirely. However, I, it is what it is. Like I said, I understand wanting to have the 6-man tag team match open the show. I understand that. And ultimately, I just think that the story has been better from Jacob and Drew than it has been with the 6-man tag team match. Now, what I want from this match is something just off the wall bonkers. And we see just downright violent and vicious, and I want to see these guys go all around Vegas. I want something similar to what we got from Drew McIntyre and CM Punk's Hell in a Cell match. I want something along those lines. And with it being an unsanctioned match, I feel like they have to kind of go all out. Now, I did talk about the story being good and better, in my opinion, than the 6-man tag team match, but it has gotten a little drawn out, just a little bit. I mean, if you really take a look at everything that has happened, you had the whole story of who took out Jacob and whether it was Drew or not. We never really got an answer for that. So the story hasn't been perfect, but I still think that it's been good. It's been really, really good. Now, I am a Drew McIntyre fan, so I do hope that he does end up winning. Ultimately, though, I think it is going to end up being Jacob Fatu. I think with the rumors about Drew going off to film, I think it would make sense having him go out on a loss again, have him go off of TV for him to film and then come back, and we kind of go through the same cycle again, I guess. And maybe he's not going off to film. I don't necessarily know the full story. I try to stay away from rumors and stuff like that. But ultimately, I do think that it is going to be Jacob getting the win here. Next up, we have the Women's Tag Team Championship Fatal 4-Way between the Bellas, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, and the Irresistible Forces, Nia Jax and Lash Legend. The build for this match has been okay, but it has been, again, kind of drawn out a little bit and kind of been all over the place because it doesn't necessarily feel like someone has the upper hand going into this match, because every time we see a women's tag team match, there's some sort of interference from one of the 4 teams in this match. So it has kind of been a little bit all over the place and it has been drawn out a little bit, but I am still excited for the match. I think this is something that we all kind of wanted and we all kind of knew it was going to lead towards something like this. And I gotta say, I love the work that Nia Jax and Lash Legend are doing right now, especially Lash Legend. I think she has done a phenomenal job since being called up, and she has added a lot to Nia Jax, a lot in my opinion. Now, the team that I am going to pick is the team that I want to see win, and that team is Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. I think Bayley and Lyra have done a very, very good job as of late, and I think that they really, really deserve a moment like this. If you want to circle back to last year's WrestleMania, let's remember that Bayley was supposed to have that Intercontinental Championship match with Lyra Valkyria, and she was taken out because of Becky Lynch. So Bayley is coming into this year's WrestleMania wanting to prove a point, wanting to show that she is still capable of being in these types of positions. And then you have Lyra Valkyria, who, let's call a spade a spade. Her booking has been terrible ever since the whole zip tie incident. And I feel like getting this type of win on the stage of WrestleMania, I think would do wonders in trying to rebuild Lyra a little bit. So if there is a team that I want to see win because I feel like they deserve it the most, it is going to end up being Bayley and Lyra, and I think they are ultimately going to end up pulling out the win. Moving on to the Women's IC title match, where we have AJ Lee taking on Becky Lynch. And again, another decent feud that has started to feel a little bit drawn out as of late. Now, in saying that, I still do really enjoy what they have done and the story that they have been telling along the way, but I really kind of felt like their last match should have probably been their very last match, but I think we all kind of knew when AJ won the title that they were going to end up going to WrestleMania. I can remember even saying after that match that this was going to go on to WrestleMania, and here we are. Now, when I take a look at this match and when I try to give my prediction on who I think is going to win, I'm taking everything into consideration here. Mainly the women's IC title, which, let's call a spade, started out so unbelievably good when you had Lyra and Becky going at it, and then it kind of got just a little bit weird, and it hasn't felt the same since Becky and AJ's feud really started for the title. So, because of all that, and because I want to see the IC title get brought back to where it once was, Becky Lynch, I feel like, needs to win. Simply because I think it's time that we start implementing some new blood for the women's IC title. And I think we have a better chance of doing that with Becky carrying the title. Becky Lynch obviously being here on a more consistent basis. AJ Lee, let's call a spade, she is a part-timer at this point. So it would make more sense for Becky to win, and I ultimately think she's going to, and hopefully we get a good feud that comes out of this, and that title starts climbing back up in terms of relevancy. Because I do feel like it has lost a lot of that special feeling that it did have when Lyra and Becky were going at it. That takes us to Seth Rollins versus Gunther, a match that was thrown together last minute for the sole reason of WWE wanting to get two of their biggest names on the WrestleMania card this year. So with that, there's really not that much of a story to really go off of. However, I am kind of curious to see what they have in store next for Gunther, because I do feel like that they ultimately backed him into a corner with the whole career killer thing, and I do ultimately think that it was supposed to be Gunther versus Rey Mysterio, but I don't hate the idea of Gunther kind of going around and being this mercenary and kind of being this gun for hire type of character. I think it works for someone that's menacing and tough like Gunther is. So maybe Paul Heyman hiring Gunther like he did, maybe potentially can open the door for something for Gunther heading in the future, and I hope that is the case. Now, as for Seth Rollins, I think that this is all just setting up the big return of Braun Breaker. I do think that Braun is going to get involved in this match, and I do ultimately think that he is going to cost Seth Rollins the match. Because if that were to happen, it does a couple different things. Obviously, it gives us the Seth versus Braun feud that it looked like we were supposed to get, and also it does give Gunther the win without Seth looking bad in any way. So while the story for Seth and Gunther hasn't really been there, because again, it was just kind of thrown together last minute, I am excited to see what can come from this match and what lies ahead for Gunther, what lies ahead for Seth, providing Braun does come back, and if he doesn't come back, then what's the story going to be for Seth? So, because of all that, I ultimately think Gunther is going to win, and I think it's going to be because Braun Breaker returns and takes out Seth Rollins. Then that takes us to the Women's World Championship match between Stephanie Valkyrie and Liv Morgan. And this feud has been one of my favorite feuds on this year's road to WrestleMania, and I ultimately think that this should be on night 2 as opposed to night 1 because the story has been so good. I love how personal they started to get with each other in their promo work and them just calling each other out and just really starting to bring up some nasty stuff. I love how personal it got. I love how we just kept getting someone cutting a promo, and then the other person would ultimately come out and just start brawling. Now, I am curious to see what can come from this match as well, because I feel like the kind of anticipation was we were going to possibly be getting a feud or story between Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, and possibly Roxanne Perez. Because let's not forget, Raquel Rodriguez had that Women's World Championship match against Stephanie Valkyrie, and she ended up losing. But I feel like that the drama in the Judgment Day has kind of settled, at least on the women's side of things. And I don't think that we're going to be seeing another member kicked out of Judgment Day anytime soon, considering we just saw them kick out Finn Balor. But I am curious to see what can happen next, and I think for that to happen and for us to get to that next possible chapter, I think it's going to end up being Liv Morgan getting the win. Not that Steph has done a bad job. She has done a phenomenal job, and a loss to Liv Morgan here in any way, shape, or form doesn't necessarily hurt her, especially if it's due to the Judgment Day's involvement. So this feud has been amazing. The match should be amazing, and I'm really excited to see what can happen next, especially if Liv Morgan wins, which I think she does. And then that takes us to the night one main event, where we have Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton with Pat McAfee. A feud that started out good because we were finally getting this match that we had wanted for so long. A feud that had peaked at the Randy Orton heel turn, and then a feud that just went downhill so fast. Pat McAfee being in this match doesn't make sense, and the rumor is that supposedly there's going to be a big time pivot coming in this match because of the backlash from fans about Pat McAfee being the guy on the other side of the phone call with Randy Orton. And here's the thing. I have no idea what's going to happen in this match, and I don't know what's even going to happen next. And with Randy Orton being my all-time favorite, obviously I want to see him win and get number 15. However, I don't know if I want to see it now. In a weird sort of way, Pat McAfee being implemented gave WWE what they wanted, and that was Cody Rhodes being the one who people wanted to see win. This entire time, Cody has been booed out of every building. Even when Randy Orton would say his name, people would boo. And we knew that that was going to be a problem heading into this feud. And for WWE to just kind of accept that this was going to happen, I feel like maybe would have been a little okay. But now, again, with Pat McAfee being involved and being on the side of Randy Orton, I don't know what to expect because I wasn't expecting Cody Rhodes to be the favorite coming out of this. And I wasn't expecting myself to be kind of cheering for Cody Rhodes in this match. So I ultimately think that Cody's going to win and retain. Now, again, Randy Orton being my favorite, if he does end up winning and getting number 15, obviously I'm going to be happy about it. But I just don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know what's going to happen next. So buckle up because the main event of night one should be a wild one. So those are my predictions for night one of WrestleMania. And now it is time to move on to night two. Moving on to night two of WrestleMania 42. And obviously, as you can tell, this is a brand new day for me. Had a little bit of a road trip in between the two videos, so that's why there's a little bit of a gap and things may look a little bit different here. But we're not going to waste too much time. We're going to jump right into night two, and we are going to start off by talking about Brock Lesnar versus Oba Femi. Easily has been WWE's best feud on this road to WrestleMania. Every single thing that they have done, they have hit, and it has worked like $1,000,000. They have got Oba Femi looking like $10 million. They've got Brock Lesnar looking really, really good too, and people just being so overly excited for this feud, for this match, a match that we have wanted to see since basically Oba Femi debuted on NXT. So we are finally going to be able to get this match, and it feels good saying that because we didn't know if we were going to get it or not. I think we were all kind of a little nervous when they announced the Brock Lesnar Open Challenge, and I think that the original plan was to have an open challenge, but I think WWE may have had to pivot and put Oba in this position when they heard the fans chanting Oba's name. And for what it's worth, this match easily could and probably should have been the main event of WrestleMania 42. Not even talking about the night one main event. This should have been the main event of WrestleMania 42. And there was even a little bit of time where it almost kind of looked like they might have actually moved this to the main event. We even had Michael Cole talking about this being a main event match on an episode of Monday Night Raw. Now, as for who I think wins, I'm going to go by who I think needs the win the most, and I'm going to end up picking Oba Femi. WWE has a rare opportunity with Oba Femi. They have the opportunity to catch lightning in a bottle and to make Oba Femi into an even bigger star than what he already has grown into on the main roster already. And this entire feud, we have seen Brock Lesnar kind of putting over Obafemi. We obviously had the first kind of moment where he told Oba to put his foot on his chest, and Brock has done a very good job at making Oba look good, and I don't necessarily think that that's going to end. And let's be real with ourselves. Brock Lesnar losing doesn't change Brock Lesnar at all. He's still Brock Lesnar. He is still who he is, and that's not going to change, especially against a guy like Oba Femi. So because of all that, I want Oba to win, and I think he is going to get the job done over Brock. Up next, we have the IC title ladder match between JD McDonough, Dragon Lee, Penta, Javon Evans, Rey Mysterio, and Rusev. This match should be a crazy one, and given the amount of names and talent that is in this match, it should be insane to watch. We know what these guys are capable of doing, and we know even Javon Evans, the brief time that he has been on the main roster, he has shown what he is capable of doing. And you just have a lot of guys who can move so smooth, so quick. Even Rey Mysterio, for being at his age, is still lightning fast. The real only outlier in this match is Rusev. How he managed to get in this match is beyond me, but I'm kind of here for it because I want to see what Rusev can do in a ladder match. I want to see how brutal he can be in a ladder match. Now, I would love to see Javon Evans get the win here, but ultimately, I think Penta's going to win and retain. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm a big Penta fan, and a lot of WWE fans love Penta. He is one of WWE's most popular superstars right now. So I think giving the big moment to Penta, even though, yes, it would be an awesome moment to see Javon win, Javon's going to get his WrestleMania moments. But this feels like a really good moment for Penta to get that big moment on the stage of WrestleMania. Moving on to the United States Championship match between Sami Zayn and Trick Williams. And this feud has been really, really good. It really has. And it was kind of in a weird spot because it felt like we were going to get the Trick versus Sammy match, and then everything with the United States Championship happened, and Carmelo Hayes got involved. Sammy ended up winning. People did not like that. And this is my big question for this match and for this feud is how far is WWE willing to take this Sami Zayn heel turn? Because if they wanted to take it a step further, then they would have Sammy win and beat Trick here. It's very obvious that people want to see Trick Williams win, and everybody seemingly has turned on Sami Zayn, and rightfully so, because Sami Zayn's character right now just is not good. It hasn't been good for quite some time now, even going back to when he was being the underdog. So while we are still getting introduced to this heel character of Sami Zayn, on the other side of things, we have Trick Williams doing amazing work. His promos have been incredible, and the addition of Lil Yachty has also kind of worked, and I talked about it in a previous video. I'm not a rap fan. I couldn't tell you a single song that Lil Yachty sings, but I've actually grown to like him throughout this feud. I thought he has done a really, really solid job at not necessarily helping Trick Williams with the promos, but just adding that extra layer to this story and to this feud. So as for who I think wins, I think it's ultimately going to end up being Sami Zayn. I just feel like WWE wants to really continue this heel run of Sami Zayn. And I feel like what we got with him winning the United States Championship in the first place was kind of WWE's first test as to seeing how good of a heel turn Sami Zayn can have here. And if you wanted the people to hate Sami Zayn even more, putting the United States title on him in the first place would have done the trick. So, because I genuinely think that they want to take this new heel Sami Zayn character even further, I think he's going to end up pulling out the win. And that doesn't hurt Trick Williams at all because, again, Trick Williams is going to get his WrestleMania moments. He is going to get his numerous titles that we are expecting him to win at this point. So having Sammy win doesn't necessarily hurt Trick at all, and it also continues to drive this Sami Zayn heel turn, which who knows how big this could get because the boos just keep coming for Sammy. Moving on to the women's championship match between Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley, and wow, this feud has been bad. This feud was bad from the start because it just felt like they didn't have any story for them to tell. And I do think things started to get a little more interesting when BFAB and Michin were introduced into the story, revealing the new faction with them and Jade Cargill. But I think that at that point, we already knew what else was going to happen, and that something else was going to be Io Sky. And I do expect to see Io at some point throughout the course of this match, and I would be shocked if we don't end up seeing her, quite frankly. It just feels like they never had a solid, concrete story written for this feud. I mean, the first couple promos between Rhea and Jade, they talked about their muscles. Like, the whole feud has just been weird from start to finish, and it just feels like, again, they didn't have anything planned, anything written for this feud. Now, as for who I think wins, I think Rhea's going to get the win. Rhea obviously being uber popular, the most popular women's superstar right now, one of the most popular superstars in all of WWE right now. I think Rhea's going to get the job done and she's going to win. Moving on to Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio. Finally, we are going to get this match. We have waited for years to get this feud, and it is finally here. And the story has been built over the course of time. Again, this is a story that we've been waiting for several years now. And in the meantime, we have seen Finn Balor kind of start to come back into the limelight after being lost for so many years with the Judgment Day, and people wanting to see Finn Balor more, and the kind of resurrection of Finn Balor's career in a way. That's what it feels like, at least. Now, something that should be mentioned is Finn Balor is going into this match as the Demon, and I don't necessarily like that decision because, again, we have seen Finn Balor kind of go through this resurgence of his WWE career, and I feel like it would have made more of an impact if it was just Finn Balor himself beating Dominic Mysterio. Don't get me wrong, I love seeing the Demon, and I think that having the Demon at WrestleMania is the absolute right move, but I just feel like the impact of a Finn Balor win would have meant more for Finn Balor if it was just Finn Balor and not the Demon. Because I do think that Finn is going to pick up the win here. I think that they are going to give him that moment, and we're going to start to see Finn Balor continue this kind of rebuild of his career. I do wish that it was just Finn Balor and not the Demon. And then that takes us to the main event. And boy, oh boy, where do I even begin? This feud started out so unbelievably good. And it felt like this was going to be the feud of WrestleMania. And then things just went downhill at a lightning pace. We had Punk obviously delivering the "I'm gonna bury you next to your father" line, and then the anticipation that was built from that one line just ultimately never really got delivered because the next thing, the best thing that Roman could do to have Punk snap was calling him old. And from that point on, this feud just got weird. And now we're at the point of this feud where CM Punk isn't even really talking about Roman Reigns anymore. He's talking more about TKO and Pat McAfee. And we've even seen Pat McAfee talk more about CM Punk than he should be talking about his match with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. So I feel like the two main events have kind of been overshadowed a little bit by this whole Pat versus Punk TKO storyline. And obviously, there is still a little bit of hope for this match because we know that WWE likes to have their surprises for the main event of WrestleMania. And I feel like if they want to do it, this would have been the match to have that big surprise. I don't know what that big surprise is going to be. I don't necessarily think that we're going to get anything on the lines of what we saw last year with the Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, CM Punk match. It definitely isn't going to sniff the Night 2 WrestleMania 40 main event, but I expect there to be something. And again, I don't know what that something necessarily is. Now, as for who I think wins, I have no idea because you can make an argument for both guys winning. I think I'm going to end up going with CM Punk because I think he makes the most sense. Obviously, Punk being here full time as opposed to Roman being here part time. And I feel like if they want to continue whatever is going on with this whole Pat McAfee TKO storyline, CM Punk winning would make more sense. Now, the interesting thing is, which side of this whole WWE versus TKO storyline is Roman Reigns at? Because if they wanted to put him on the TKO side, they could have him win and maybe create something interesting there. But because I feel like that just has so much unknown still, I'm going to end up going with CM Punk winning and retaining the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. So, this is where I want to hear from you guys. Let me know your entire thoughts on WrestleMania 42. Let me know what your thoughts are on the build and the road to WrestleMania 42. And let me know what you think about the match card and who you think is going to win, who you think is going to lose, and also let me know what you think about my predictions as well. As always, leave all your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section, and while you're down there, swing by the description and click the Linktree link. That is the only link in the description for a reason. That is because it'll take you to all of the social media platforms for this channel. I do strongly suggest going and checking out our X page. Besides YouTube, I am most active over on X. We do updates for Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, and the PLEs. And we are also over on Instagram and TikTok. Over there, you can expect clips from these videos, and it's just another place for me to post when I do upload a video on here to YouTube. So if you do enjoy these videos and you're looking for some extra content, again, Linktree link in the description. It'll take you to wherever you want to go. So with all that said and finally done, that is going to do it for this video here. I do kind of want to apologize if this video is kind of weird with the whole kind of split video between night 1 and night 2. Again, took a road trip in between the filming of night 1 and night 2 for this video, so I apologize if the first part of this video looks a little bit different from the second part. So again, that is going to do it for this video here. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button. If you really enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. Again, both are free. Both really help out the channel a lot. And of course, if you have made it to this point of the video, I want to say thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your busy day to watch these videos here because it genuinely, genuinely does mean the world to me. And as always, stay tuned for more WWE content coming in the future. We'll see you next time.